channel. My name is Anayati, and today I'm going to talk about some technical tips and precautions for cooling systems in general. My primary advice is that you always have safety in mind and be very cautious about touching any cooling system component because they can be very hot and unreliable. For example, under some conditions, a cooling fan can come on even when the engine is off and cold. This malfunction can caused by a defective sensor, ECU, or wiring. To test the cooling fan if it is shared with the air conditioning system, you can turn on the AC system and see if the cooling fan comes on. In this case, if the cooling fan starts to work, the temperature sensor can be the culprit. Sometimes a visual inspection can be very helpful in finding root of these malfunctions and defects. So not just for the cooling system, but for all the systems that are used on your car, it's recommended that you set a schedule to visit your car based on instructions that are noted in your car owner's manual. And if a fault happens to your car, always refer to OEM service centers or reputable shop and try to follow their recommendations. For example, if they find a defective hose in the system that needs to be changed and the technician advises you to change all the other hoses used in that cooling system, you should follow that guide because these hoses are made of the same material and a corroded one can be an indication that other hoses are in the line. In many cases, technicians recommend you to change the water pump at the same time that the timing belt or chain is replaced. Also, if the shop has installed new water pump on your car, it's normal that you have a small quantity of coolant leakage if it doesn't continue after 1 to 3 hours of new pump operation. After installing a new water pump, always flush the whole system from old coolant and fill that with fresh coolant with right antifreeze concentration because particles in the old and contaminated coolant can damage the sliding surfaces of the new pump that can result in premature water pump defects. You need to know that professional flushing, especially for removing deposits and scales, need special equipment and procedures, and some shops can do that for you. Also remember that since the water pump is partially lubricated by the coolant, running the engine without coolant other than the danger of damage to the engine can deprive the water pump from coolant lubrication that results in pump seizure and failure. And maybe some guys advise you to remove the thermostat in the summer for better cooling. Please note that thermostat is there to make sure that the engine works in optimum temperature, and ambient temperature cannot affect this optimum temperature. Also, by removing thermostat, the coolant flows into the whole system freely, and it takes more time for the coolant to reach to that normal operating temperature. Now imagine that you are driving up hills for many minutes and engine temperature has raised at the effect of increased load and fuel consumption. Now you start to go downhill while increasing your speed. In this condition, increased flow of air over the radiator reduces the coolant temperature dramatically, and free flow of this very lower temperature coolant into the engine can cause a thermoshock that can be detrimental for that. So you cannot find any advice in the owner's manual to remove the thermostat in the summer. In the owner's manual, you can find recommendations about a coolant type and change intervals. For modern cars, many manuals recommend to use organic additive technologies that are known as extended life type coolants that are usually red in color and can stand extended warranty period of that engine. But if the owner's manual doesn't recommend for any special coolant and antifreeze, you can use conventional coolants that usually contain greenish antifreeze in them. However, there is no restriction to use more expensive extended life type coolant. An exception is old classic cars that these OAT antifreezes may not be suitable for them. Now, if you want to switch to higher quality coolant, best practice would be to flush the whole system from the old one and fill that with new one, because mixing a higher quality coolant with lower quality one degrades the mixture to that lower quality coolant specifications. Generally, don't mix the different brands and qualities of coolant and antifreeze because they may contain different additive packages that are not compatible. Using any type of coolant and antifreeze, you need to have right antifreeze concentration according to minimum anticipated ambient temperature. Like OEM initial fill, recommended concentration is 50-50, and for lower temperatures you need to increase antifreeze concentration, but remember that going over about 70% concentration can negatively affect coolant heat dissipation and even raises the freezing point, and with less than 30% concentration the coolant cannot provide adequate protection for metal parts. Now if you have a coolant that you don't know its antifreeze concentration, you can visit the service shop to measure that for you almost accurately using a special tool known as refractometer. Also, pH of the coolant can be a measurement for its quality. This is because engine high temperature accelerates inhibitor consumption and breakdown of glycol into acidic products that lowers pH of the coolant. So it's typically not a good practice to allow a coolant to operate in pH of lower than 7. In this case, remember that pH number is not necessarily an indication for inhibitors concentration. And if you want to boost antifreeze concentration, never use alcohol for this purpose, because alcohol has a lower boiling point and flash point. And remember that glycol is flammable too, so never weld or use open flames near the leakage that involve antifreeze. Also, if you want to open the radiator or cooling system surge tank cap, never do that when the coolant is hot and under pressure, because as I said, coolant under pressure has higher boiling temperature, and when you open the cap, a coolant pressure drops that makes the coolant to boil over immediately. Even though radiator caps are designed to not fly off the radiator neck, but this boiling coolant can burn your hands and face. And when you want to make coolant mixture, always use right amount of water with good quality, and here good quality means clean drinkable soft water with low amount of calcium and magnesium compounds, and it's highly recommended to use the ionized or distilled water with maximum total hardness of 170 ppm. In this case, snow and rain precipitations are great only if the air quality is good and you collect them dirt-free. And at the end, remember that for your own safety, avoid contact of antifreeze with your skin and inhale of its toxic vapors, and try to keep this sweet liquid out of reach of kids and animals. I hope that this video was useful and informative for you, and worth the precious time that you spent for watching that. Please subscribe to my channel if you like, and press the bell icon to be notified if I have a new video on my channel. Bye.